Hello, welcome to the Questionable Calls podcast on it's Sunday, a little bit after 8 o'clock Eastern time. Just got finished watching kind of a lackluster day of NFL football. It's obvious at this point who the good teams are and who the bad teams are, and I kind of feel like we're just waiting for the playoffs. But that's where we are. College football got a week off. We're not going to spend a lot of time breaking down the Army-Navy game. Apologize to all the people. We thank you. We thank you for your service, but we're not going to be talking about your football game. I apologize. But the major story this week, Clark, something you and I have already talked about. Bill Belichick has agreed to become the head coach of the University of North Carolina football team. And there's a bunch of ways I can go with this, but Clark, just to start off, what were your initial thoughts when you heard he was taking this job?
It was surprising. It was I mean, not surprising because he couldn't get an NFL job. That's one of the things we should talk about. How some people are like, "Oh, it's shocking he couldn't get an NFL job." I'm actually not shocked about that, but I'm just like, he really wants to go to college because, I thought he wanted to surpass Don Shula's record for wins as a head coach, which he's not going to do that now. Because if he's there, if he's at North Carolina for 2 or 3 years, that's it. That's not going to happen. So I'm a little surprised with that, and also just I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised by the news, and I didn't, when he was interviewing with North Carolina, I thought, wow, is that real? And then I heard, well, he's trying to get his son the job there, and that made a little more sense. But going, so yeah, I was definitely surprised, and but going back to last year, Clark, I thought it was strange that he couldn't get a job with an NFL team didn't hire him last season
Right.
when he was available, so that kind of surprised me. But then I kind of started to realize that there's a combination of factors here. There's a combination of the the NFL teams. I'm sure that Robert Kraft has talked to some of the other owners about Bill Belichick at this point. And, I don't think he probably had a lot of nice things to say.
Yeah.
I think that there's a combination of, so a lot of these NFL teams are, the owners want to do it their way, or whoever's in the front office wants to do it their way. And they don't really want anybody trying to tell them what to do. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing is I don't think there were job openings that would have really worked for him.
Right.
And we talk about a lot of this comes down to control. And I just don't think an NFL team was willing to even take the chance, even with Belichick saying, no, I don't have to have all the power. I don't even think, I think everyone's threatened by, the people who are, want to keep their jobs, they're threatened by him. And the people who don't want to do everybody doesn't want to do everything his way. And I think there's a lot, there's probably more to that, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But yeah, I'm it makes sense that he didn't get an NFL job, but I think he should have gotten one. I think a lot of these an NFL team should have hired this guy. I don't know what we're doing when we're refusing to hire a coach who's won 6 Super Bowls. It's a little confusing to me.
To an extent, but he hasn't been that good lately, and if you're trying to hire somebody now, you probably want to hire somebody who can be your coach for hopefully like several years, not just like 4 or 5. So
from a football intelligence point of view, that's the part that surprises me. Now, when you start talking about all the other stuff, like he wants to do it his way, he wants control, he wants to bring in his own people,
right.
all that. I think that the Belichick, the Belichick apologists, right, the Michael Lombardis of the world, are trying to tell us, no, well, these guys aren't qualified to interview him anyway. And he shouldn't, well, why should he listen to them? He knows way more about football than they do. It's like, okay, but you're trying to get someone to hire you. Like,
right.
and I don't feel that Belichick did himself any favors when he was in the league with other coaches and other other front offices and other owners. I don't think he did himself any favors, and I think that is part of that is coming back to bite him. I
Yeah, I
think
mean, he didn't. You know, he only wanted to work with certain people,
yep,
and so I think he became really insular the last, not just the last 3 or 4 years, but even with Brady, like the last few years with Brady, where it's just like, no, I'll take over the draft, and I only want to work with these coaches. And he's not innovating. He's not bringing other people in. He's not learning, all this different stuff. And then also, like, when people are like, "Oh, I'm surprised they didn't hire Belichick." Well, the last, Bill Simmons was talking about this. The last year in New England, they were sloppy. And
yeah,
it was like, yeah, I understand they don't have talent and they're not going to win a lot of games, but they're just sloppy. Like, what is this? That's just kind of odd. And also, Belichick, I mean, he's 72. Like,
yep,
he's not going to, at this point, he's 70. He is what he is. He's not going to change. That's never, which it's kind of weird because I do feel like he did adapt at different points, but now he's just going to kind of do things his specific way, regardless of whether or not it works. And it's just, I can just see a lot of teams are kind of put off by that. They don't want to have him running everything because usually that doesn't work. Like the results are in on that. It's just if you have the coach trying to run every damn thing, it doesn't work. So, yeah, again, not really shocked that he couldn't get an NFL job. I'm surprised he's going to college because I don't know how this is going to work. But yeah, I mean, the owner, obviously he rubbed the owner the wrong way, and I think Robert Kraft probably told other owners about some of that stuff, and so that probably rubbed them the wrong way. And then I also think that, like, if you're a GM or you're in the front office, you're thinking, I mean, the way he treated Brady, you had that documentary come out and you had all this other stuff come out. It's like, I don't think that's going to work in 2024, So that, again, it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, we can talk about whether or not it's going to work in college, but yeah.
yeah. No, I think that I think, and you look at Belichick's coaching tree, the guys who have coached with him that have gotten other jobs, they generally get fired the same way. They're run out on a rail because people don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
And it's so you've basically created this situation where you guys are impossible to deal with, that Josh McDaniels and Charlie Weiss and Joe Judge and Matt Patricia and all these guys, and people are like, get out of here. And so I think that that speaks to what it's been like, and again, to the Belichick apologists, like, you guys you can't ignore the record. We can't go, oh, the last 5 years they've been bad.
Yeah.
He's got 8 losing seasons as a head coach in his career. Like, you can't just go, and just brush past that. Well, 6 Super Bowls, blah, blah, blah. It's like, and I'm not one of these people, well, he only won because of Brady. No, that's nonsense. People who think that, like, I don't know what you're smoking, but you can't get upset when people state things that are true. You don't really work well with others. Like, you're not inviting anybody new in. And to transition to the North Carolina part of it, like, I just find it funny that Seth Wickersham was like, well, every week he has a Zoom call with Matt Patricia and Josh McDaniels and former Patriots assistants, and they go through all the games and all the teams. And the first thing that I thought when I heard that was, yes, all the people that are still unemployed. Like, now Brian Flores still employed as a defensive coordinator with Minnesota, right? So, like, we gotta be fair. Yeah, he's still hired, and Belichick's son is a coach with the University of Washington. Like, we got to be fair here. But doesn't that strike you as odd? All the guys that Belichick wants to work with, none of them are employed.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a red flag. Like, what am I supposed to say about that? He told Robert Kraft, Brady's done, we should get rid of him. Brady goes and wins the Super Bowl. He doesn't get any heat for that.
Right.
So I just don't think the people who support Belichick are completely honest about what's going on here. And they all say, well, if he just doesn't let him control the front office, then yeah, okay. But no one, he's not going to take a job where he doesn't have control. So anyway, yeah, I told you this like right off the bat. Like I think Belichick with North Carolina, I think there's about an 80% chance this doesn't work. Now, when I say it doesn't work, either it's a disaster or he hangs in there for a year or two and they give it to somebody else, or or it just doesn't go that well. They're 7-5 and 8-4, and it's not really, they're
Right.
not really
Well,
great.
in fairness, like I don't know that there's any coach you could send to North Carolina and make them like a 10-win team or something. Like I don't. That just. I mean, again, I'm not as up on college football, but North Carolina is a basketball school. They're not a football school, so I just don't see why. So him being successful there, I mean, if he can compete for the ACC championship until late in the season or get in the ACC championship game, like, okay, that would be successful. It's not winning a national championship because I don't know if there's anybody that's going to win a national championship in football at North Carolina. But I think the bigger question, like you were saying, is this going to just be a disaster where it's like Mac Brown, except he doesn't get the talent that Mac Brown was able to at least get there a little bit. Then it can really be a disaster because in college, yeah, Belichick he can scheme things up on defense, but you know, scheme only matters so much in college. It's more about the talent you have.
Yeah, so let's talk about these things, these things that people are saying, like that why this will work. And my first criticism is a lot of these people saying these things don't know anything about college football. Like this is one of the things I've been complaining to you about the media about for a while is the national media covers the NFL. They don't pay attention to college football. They just don't. I know it's the second most popular sport, but it is not covered the same way
Right.
that these other things are. So they think that people imagine these things that they think are true. So like number one, like you said, well, schematically he's going to be great. Yeah, but college football is not about schematics. You only get to practice 20 hours a week. This isn't you get to mind meld and come up with your master plan and everybody's going to go out and execute it perfectly because you've spent hours and hours and hours, sorting through it. You don't get to do that in college. Okay? And my first example of where this thought process is not correct is Charlie Weiss takes over Notre Dame, right? And they're pretty good. Like the first year, he's got a quarterback, he's calling the plays. Okay, it kind of works, but you can't out scheme people in college. There's very few guys, and it only happens with the best teams with the most talent.
Right.
Like those advantages are wiped away in college. It's not, it just doesn't work that way. So that's the first, that's number one. Number two, well, the college football is a lot more like the NFL now. I
Not
mean, they have the transfer portal is just like free agency, and like
no.
they can spend money. So it's just like, when they spend money in the salary cap and it's like, okay, like that's, yeah, they're like, players change teams in the NFL and in college. That's where the similarities end. Okay. In the NFL, you have a guy for as long as his contract is. That's number one. Number two, guys are free agents every minute of every day. Okay, I know they can only leave during the transfer portal, but you have to treat them like they're going to leave. So
Yeah.
the guys are free agents all the time, 24/7. It's 24/7 free
And you
agency.
can't not give a shit that some of these guys are going to leave. In the NFL, it's basically, hey, you should take less for the team, or you're not good enough anymore, so get out of here, whatever. No, 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 no. If you don't have the talent, you can't compete. So you got to play, you got to be like, no, no, we want you here and all this stuff. You got to be, it's got to be more, not positive. That's not the word I'm looking for, but there's got to be more of an effort put on that. In the NFL, it's just like, look, it's all a business. We're here to make money, whatever. But, you can treat people like shit to a certain extent. It doesn't matter. In college, that's not the case because they can just leave. after a year. So if, they get in there and they're, you're treating them like shit, or you're like Brady or whatever was treated, it's like at a certain point, people aren't going to want to do that. And remember, they got to choose to come to you. Okay. You don't have like it's not the same as in the NFL in terms of it's a business and we want to make money. I need a job. So, okay, you guys are willing to give me a contract. Okay.
Yeah. When you draft players in the NFL, you own them. There's none of that in college.
Not anymore.
Not one guy that you're going to be like, oh, we got him. He's blah, blah, blah. You can't, and then the recruiting part, it's just like, he's not going to have to go on visits or whatever. He's going to stay home. He's going to do what Dion does. He's going to stay home and he's going to have other people go out and do the recruiting for him and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. But Dion also got like a top, a first round quarterback and the guy who just won the Heisman last night on his team. Okay. Is Belichick going to get guys like that?
And Dion walks into a room and it's just like, he's got this magnetism to him. And he's a star, Belichick, yes, he's been very, very successful as a head coach, but he's not, the one of the things I'm wondering is like, are kids going to give a shit about this guy? Like,
yeah.
Seriously. I mean, Deion Sanders, and people are like, oh, well, Deion Sanders played way before some of these kids were even born. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like, I don't know. Again, he's got a gravitas.
Sex
to
appeal.
Him. Yeah, exactly. He's got a gravitas to him. And it's just like, it makes sense. Belichick, he's got none of that. It's basically like, look, I want to win football games,
Yeah, and it's like, or he looks really great now. He's being, nice and thought this whole year, he's been in the media and he's been, more gregarious and having a good time and showing personality and all this stuff. And, it's like, yeah, is that going to continue? Or are we going to get to the press conference? I was like, yeah, well, we didn't do very well today. And, they made more plays. It's just like, you can't, that's just not, that's not going to work.
One of the things about college football coaches, and it's getting this way in the NFL too. I mean, a lot of these college football coaches, they're younger. It's energy, like Sark at Texas, or Kirby Smart at Georgia, or Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, or I'm trying to think of who else. Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, the new coach at Alabama.
Kirby Smart.
Yeah, Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin. Like there's Dabo's younger. There's energy. Like they it just, there's something to that, and it's not, that's college football is kind of like that. The NFL is even getting that way with like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Kevin O'Connell. It's like younger energy, like innovate, like all this stuff, and it's like Belichick just seems, like the game's kind of passed him by.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, well, they're going to spend more money now. They're going to their collective's going to put out the money, and they're going to blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, but they didn't do that. They had money. It's not like they didn't just get money. They had money when Mac Brown was the coach.
Yeah, Mac Brown couldn't get Mac Brown got Drake May to go there, and Drake May was picked in the draft, and looks like he might be pretty good. But is Belichick going to be able to do that? Like.
Right. Are they going to put, so now they're going to give more money? Oh, okay. So they're going to go buy players. Okay, great. But you can't, I think we've seen, like, you can't go heavy transfer portal for most of your roster and think that's going to work. Because again, we go back to in college, 20 hours a week to practice. You can't build this thing and everybody knows exactly what to do. And and listen, I agree that this Belichick will have his team well coached. I agree. They'll probably be well coached. He'll probably have it together, but yeah. So those are I just love all the excuses. And then Mike Lombardi comes on and go, well, we're going to, it's going to be just like, we're going to have a pro personnel department, and we're going to, so we're going to know about the transfer portal. And then we're going to have a, director of college scouting is just going to be the director of high school scouting. It's like, okay, great. You're going to your scouting. Oh, good. It's like, you have to convince them to come to your school, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows who the best players are. I don't think that's the problem.
Right, exactly.
Like, you're not finding players won't be the issue. It'll be convincing them to come to you.
Yeah.
And I don't think people get that. And that's my opinion. And then I heard all this week, Stuart Mandel goes on Dan Patrick, and it's like, congratulations, he wrote an article in the New York Times. Congratulations, North Carolina. You just hired a coach that's completely unprepared for your job. And I was like, damn, that's rough. And then Tom Curran, who covers the Patriots, was on with Ryan Russillo, and Russillo's like, do you think this is going to work? And he's like, no. He's like, Bill's doing this whole song and dance right now, but this is gonna get old, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like, and then the whole thing where it's like, no, he always wanted to coach in college. And I thought it was a really funny anecdote by Nick Wright this week, where he's like, Bill Belichick's basically like the guy, you're in junior high and you're like, you go to your first class of the day and, hey, Sarah's going to break up with you. So you go see Sarah before third period. I break up with you first. That's what Belichick in the NFL is like. He's like, the NFL was like, hey man, we're not really. He's like, no, fuck you. And so I think that, and so that's what Tom Curran was saying. Like, this is just sticking it to the NFL. He didn't want to coach in college, please. And it's like, so that's the most disturbing part to me, Clark, is that this is the best job he could get. A middling ACC school in college. Like, so that's the part I'm just, where I push back on everybody else who loves this is, guys, it's North Carolina football. Like, and so that was, one of the other things that I forgot to say earlier was like, North Carolina is a good football program. I'm like, I've been watching college football for almost 40 years. When have they been a good football program?
Yeah.
They had one 10-win season before Mac Brown left to go to Texas. Right. And I think they had a decent year when Butch Davis coached there. They've never in my life been, oh, wow, North Carolina's a really good football program, ever.
Yeah, no, that's not. They've been a really good basketball program, but
right.
Football,
absolutely.
Like, no.
So I don't know, man. I just don't buy into, they're going to get all this money and blah. It's like, yeah, so there's plenty of schools that have money.
There's plenty of schools that get money. Like, you're going to get as much money as Texas or Michigan or something or Ohio State.
Right.
No, you're not.
Right. Yeah. So I don't, I think this will be an interesting test case, because they're like, he's bringing in all his NFL people. And it's like, he better be hiring a lot of college recruiters, a lot of people who understand how college football works. Otherwise, as Mike Lombardi says this all the time, when you hire a head coach, you got to get somebody to help him when he's never been a head coach before. You got to help him be a head coach. You got to help Belichick learn how this works in college. And so we'll see. They had a 3 or 4 star quarterback, I can't remember, that was committed to North Carolina. But after Belichick took the job, he's said he's going to stay there. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Now, that being said, I hope it works. I think it'd be great. And anytime we can get another good college football team, I'm all for it. I think Belichick on the sideline facing off against Dabo Swinney would be great. But it's just like this idea that, he's going to be way better than every coach on the other sideline. It's like,
yeah, I don't really think that.
I hate to break this to everybody. Game management and that kind of stuff doesn't win college football games, guys. Like, that's the NFL. Like, all these little things that you're going to do better than the other guy, that matters in an NFL game, because all the games are decided by one score.
You know who could probably do well in college, like, that I'm thinking is in the NFL? Mike McDaniel might be able to do well in college, right? He seems kind of younger, kind of fun. I know we mentioned the schematic thing, but I mean, he could he could probably figure out a way to run some of this stuff, that they're running now in the NFL, like run it in college. And I think he could get like guys to come play, because they'd be like, oh yeah, I saw what you did in Miami with Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, that's kind of fun, like.
Yeah, offensive players. Yeah, offensive players definitely would. Running backs and receivers.
Yeah,
they would definitely want to play for him. Yeah, he would definitely be. He'd be decent. I mean,
there's certain guys I could think in the NFL might work, but like, Belichick or Brian Flores, or like, I just don't think that's,
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're gonna rip the players apart, not give them any credit for anything, and do you think that's gonna work? And the former players who've played for Belichick, they're all like, this is not a good idea. All of them. Okay, they had Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman on Fox. Like, you think he'd make a good college coach? No.
No.
So
Yeah, you want to come here? I mean, we don't really want you, but
when the first response of all the former is like, no, this is a bad idea,
this is a bad idea.
The only people who are supporting this are media that don't cover college football. Any media that covers college football, they're like, yeah, I don't know about this. so I'm just whatever. I'll take the advice of the experts, but anyway, that's our opinion. I hope for him that it works. I hope it's great. But and then Colin Cowherd, like I love how cynical Colin Cowherd is, because he finds the obvious things where it's like Bill Belichick can basically get out of his contract with no penalty on like June, before June 2nd or whatever. Not that he's going to leave the first year. I don't think that's going to happen. But the fact that that's in his contract is just like, come on, man. Like this was not his first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice. Like this was barely on the list. So, I just find it funny, and everybody's going to follow. He's going to get all these guys to go with him, Clark. He's going to get all his former Patriots people that are all unemployed, that all happen to be unemployed.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting. But yeah, I understand the media has to try to pump this stuff up. Dan Patrick's going, hey, it's the ACC, why not? It's wide open. Why can't they just,
You know what, Dan Patrick, he doesn't know. Does he watch college football? Does he have the first clue about what's going on in college football? I mean, I know I don't watch that much, but I mean, Dan Patrick just seems like he gives these like reactionary takes on stuff, and it's just so like, come on, man. Yeah,
Yep.
I don't really buy anything he says about college football. I've been listening to him for years talk about that. I just think he's full of it. But
yeah. All right. Anyway, Clark. So let's move on. Let's talk some NFL. Clark, where's your Chiefs hate meter? Because we need to set the stage first. When the Chiefs won last week off the doink field goal that went through the uprights, Clark lost his mind.
I was furious. Yes.
Texting me and went absolutely apeshit. And I got him on the phone a few days later, and I'm just like, Clark, like, these games don't matter, dude. This is just the regular season. You're aware of that, right? And you complain now. So before we get to what your hate meter's at, like, Clark, you complained about the Spurs when we talked about this before, but you never got upset when the Spurs won a regular season game at the buzzer.
There's only so many of them in the NFL. I mean, it's
Yeah, but I mean, what does it matter what they do in that regular season game? That's my number one thought is that, like, what is it? I don't know why we're invested in regular season games. They have to lose in the playoffs for it to be over. That's number one. Number two, didn't you had to know when the Chargers kicked a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown in that game that the game was over?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess, Mahomes is going to get 4 downs, or he's going to do some bullshit to get a first down that's going to ice the game. And then the ultimate middle finger, they kick the field goal, it bounces off the upright and goes in. And it's just like, yeah, we're screwing with you. we can barely score enough points we can't score 20 points, but we can still win. So actually, no. After this game, so let's see, they won by 2 scores against Cleveland, which they should have. Good for them. Even though they couldn't really pass.
They didn't play well. They didn't play well. Like, they averaged under 5 yards of play on offense. It was not good. 2 of the touchdowns they got were off turnovers.
And then Mahomes has got injured now, so I don't know. Right. He's unsure about his availability. Now look, I don't want anybody to get hurt, particularly get a head injury.
Oh no.
I don't. No, let me put this. I don't.
Clark, want we had 2 guys carted off the field today on stretchers. I just want to let you know.
Yeah, that's that kind of stuff. No. This, I mean, look, he got up. He's obviously got some sort of ankle injury or something like that. So my Chiefs hate, based on that, the fact that maybe he's not going to be available a few games. Maybe this is going to be like a significant injury. I'm at like a 6.
Okay.
Maybe even a 5. I'm somewhere between a 5 and a 6 because I'm like, all right, well, you didn't play a close game. You won, even though you didn't play well. And, if this is a significant injury, that kind of changes things. And also the way that they played in this game, I mean, like you said, they didn't play that well. So, that kind of gives me hope that maybe they can go down. And also, the Bills beat the crap out of the Lions today. Okay, the Lions who have a good running game, which is kind of what the Chiefs probably want to do against them, and it didn't matter. The Bills, annihilated. The Bills just blew them out. So, granted, the Lions defense is nowhere near the Chiefs defense, so that's a little bit different. But still, I mean, if you watch Josh Allen in that game, I mean, some of those throws he was making where he's just throwing it into coverage and just throwing it right to the guy, like that was pretty ridiculous. So yeah, it's not too bad this week, Now granted, they play some close game next week or whatever, like then I may be more upset, but
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why we don't put the Chiefs hate on hold until January. I mean, it doesn't. I just don't.
I guess that's fair.
I don't get it. What are we arguing about? What do you say to the people who are like, the Chiefs are it's so lucky, hey, they can't keep getting away with this?
No, they're not. I mean, look, okay. When you have a dynasty and you win multiple championships, there's a little bit of luck involved, and I don't say that in a derogatory way, like trying to take credit away. I really don't. It happens. The Patriots had some luck. When Manning won the Super Bowl with the Colts, they had some luck. I mean, that always happens. But they're not lucky. They're not lucky. I mean, they've made some plays. When it gets into a critical situation in the game, they seem to always make the play. They're so good in one-score games, it's just kind of ridiculous. And they're just committed to winning by any means necessary. It's like the Patriots. They just win by any means necessary. It doesn't matter. We can play like crap on offense. We can barely score. We can't even score 20 points, and we can still win. So, look, do they deserve credit for that? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. That's definitely a skill, and that's not luck. I just find it intensely annoying. So, am I being a hater? Yes, I'm totally being a hater. That's why we're calling it Chiefs hate. Like, I'm literally being a hater. Like, they win a lot because they make plays in critical moments of games. So,
well, and yeah, it's sports hate. It's not real hate. Just so people understand. Yeah. So, and honestly, Clark, I kind of enjoyed it. I enjoy the Chiefs barely winning these games and everyone being angry. I think it's quite entertaining. It reminds me of it's not obviously a completely different situation, but when Tim Tebow was playing for the Broncos and they kept winning these games, 13-10 every week, and he'd make some play at the end where they'd win, and everyone would be up in arms. All the Tebow fans would be like, "See, he's awesome. He's going to be great." Blah blah blah, and all the Tebow people who were like, "Nah, this isn't." And so I just thought it was hysterical. The funniest one was, I think it was one of the last ones that they won. I think it was the one against the Jets. And Ryan Russillo comes on his radio show the next Monday and is like, "Yeah, listen, man, that was incredible. I still don't believe in him." I was just like, oh man. So that's what it reminds me of. Everybody blowing their lid, going crazy. Oh, they're so lucky, blah blah blah. And I'm like, man, look, they're really good. Like, this is like, we can, and again, it just cracks me up because this stuff doesn't matter. Like, they're in line to get the 1 seed. They're probably going to get it, even if they don't. I've explained to everybody it doesn't matter. They can win anywhere. Like, it really makes absolutely no difference.
Yeah, what we should do is before the playoffs start, or actually, okay, before the Chiefs' first playoff game, whether it's in the wild card round or in the divisional round, depending on if they get the 1 seed or not.
Right.
We should do like so how are you feeling about the chances the Chiefs are going to lose? Because I'm sure that's going to fluctuate over the next month.
Well, the other thing we got to do is we got to get you on here in the fourth quarter. We should do a live stream of the fourth quarter of the Chiefs. They're going to win one of these games, and you're going to be like, "Mother!" You're going to lose your mind. We're going to have to edit out all the curse words. It's going to be great. That's what we should do. Oh my God. Just a side by side of Clark's immediate reaction to Chiefs win.
I was really pissed off when they lost to the Chargers.
I was shocked you were still up to watching the game. I was just like,
I shouldn't have. I don't know what I was inflicting emotional pain on myself. I don't know why the hell I stayed up watching that crap.
Oh my God. All right. So let's move on here. Let's talk. All right. Can we put a fork in the Dolphins now?
Oh.
Can we just Can we
Yeah,
just
I mean
move on?
officially because now they got 8 losses, so yeah, they'll probably lose another one. So you know, I will say this though, I'm going to hold out hope. Last year I said they'd finish 7-10, they went 11-6. This year, 7-10, very much in play.
Absolutely.
That'd be kind of cool if I predicted that because I did say 7-10 before the season. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, they'd have to win another game to get to that, Clark. I don't know if that's going to
I
happen.
think they could win another game. The question is going to be how many they're going to lose. So, yeah, I mean, today, like Tua, like one of those a couple of those interceptions. One of them. I mean, it's like, dude, the defensive back is literally right. You can see him. He's like right there. The fuck? What was that? I don't, And then he threw. What did he throw? 3 interceptions today.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's in a game that they absolutely needed. Once again, he didn't deliver.
And again, I don't know what we're like. I don't even understand what the Dolphins fans were excited about. They can't run the ball. They just can't run the ball. Okay. They don't throw it down the field at all. Like they basically, I watched a video on YouTube. Alex Rollins did something on this. They've stopped throwing the ball down the field. I don't know if that's because they don't trust the quarterback to do it right,
Because the
or
safeties are back,
because of the way the
or
defense is playing. I don't know, but they're not doing it. So every play is basically he looks downfield. He looks like Russell Wilson now, Clark, except he can't move. Every play he looks down the field and then checks it down to the running back or whoever it is. And we don't throw the ball to Tyreek Hill at all anymore. We throw it to Jonnu Smith all the time. I don't know what happened. We've just decided that's it. Jonnu Smith, that's who we're going to from now on. So I don't even know what to, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel positive about. Oh yeah, and we're paying the quarterback $50 million a year, and we keep, winning these games. We didn't win today, but they keep winning these games to ruin their draft pick. I don't know what. Like I said, halfway through the month into the season, I don't like this team, and every week I don't like this team even less. I can't stand it. I don't know what am I supposed to be happy about. We're back to, well, if things go well, we'll go 8. We'll get, we'll be 8-8. That's where we are now. So,
well,
yeah.
the other thing is, I mean, Tua getting hurt really screwed up the season because there's probably 2 games in there that stretch where he was hurt that they would have won, possibly 3.
Well, I mean, they won the Colts. Well, look,
yeah.
they won the Patriots game. They probably would have won that anyway. They just lost that game to the Colts. I don't know that any of the other games they would have won.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. I mean, so it's basically, so I think what Dolphins fans will say is, well, I mean, if he didn't get hurt, and it's like, yeah, but that's what he does.
Right.
Like last year was the exception. Like that's what he does. So it basically becomes, all right, well, if he's only out for a few games, can you be the 7 seed in the playoffs? And that's, that's a possibility depending on how bad things go while he's out.
But that's the last 25 years for us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can we sneak into the playoffs and get our ass kicked? That's
Which is
what
funny
it is.
because I feel like fans last year were like, "Oh, they're close," and it's like, no, they're not close. They're not close.
That's my criticism.
If they want to get close, they need to trade Tyreek Hill for draft picks, and they need to really stock up and rebuild the offensive line. But they're not. They're probably not going to do that because, it's not. They're not the type of organization that's going to be like, okay, we need to reset here and fix things. They're not going to.
Yeah, I mean, look, Clark, the difference between last year and this year. So Mike McDaniel can't figure out anybody to hire as a defensive coordinator. They don't want to work with him, right? So the defense is, okay, but now the offense is taking a back seat. They've regressed. The offense is average or worse this year. So I don't understand how we're supposed to win. How would we win games? The team is literally getting worse. It's not like, oh, well, they just had a tough year because no, they're not good.
Yeah.
They're one of the teams in the NFL, which is like more than half the league now, that's just not good. So, all right. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to talk too much more Dolphins the rest of the season.
No, because I mean, with 8 losses, I mean, it was a long shot anyway, but with 8 losses, I mean, they're done. They're probably going to lose it. They're going to lose at least one more game. In my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't be surprised they lost all 3.
So yeah, that means under 500. And then the Broncos won today. The Ravens won. The Chargers lost.
Yep.
So that's 6. But still, the Dolphins are still two games on the loss column behind the Chargers.
They
So
have
I just don't.
the Dolphins have San Francisco at home, at Cleveland, at the Jets. Like, I won't be surprised. They barely beat the Jets in overtime at home. I won't be surprised at all if they lose all three.
They have to go to Cleveland and to the Jets, so
Right.
they could potentially have some bad weather. So yeah,
right. And Cleveland is a night game.
yeah. I think, to be honest, I think they're going to go 1-2. I think they'll win. They'll find a way to win one of those games, and then they'll lose the other two.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. So Clark, I think I like that the Steelers lost the way they did to the Eagles now. So now we can get these people who are like trying to tell me, like, this week, Bill Simmons, like, I think the Steelers are really good. It's like, now we can get off this the Steelers are really good thing, and we can understand where their place is. Okay, like, I like this thing with Russell Wilson. I'm a fan, but they're not in that class. They are not in the same class as Philadelphia and Kansas City and Detroit and Buffalo. Like, not even close. And by the way, they got like 2 turnovers in the first quarter today. And still it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just I'm excited. I'm happy that the Steelers, I think they're going to be they're going to be a tough out. They're not easy to beat by any means. But come on. Like,
Yeah, I kind of think the Eagles are. I think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, or at least they should be seen as the favorite out of the NFC to make the Super Bowl. You put Detroit there, I just have a lot of questions about Detroit's defense. But outside of those two teams, like, that's kind of it. But, I don't know. I will say that, like, it's a one-game scenario. So you put them in a game against some other team, like, Minnesota or Green Bay or even Seattle, maybe. Like, that could potentially be a problem. But, we'll see.
the Eagles are not overwhelming in terms of putting together like a perfect game, but they have so much freaking talent, it doesn't matter. Their defense is good. And their offense, even with they're like Jalen Hurts, well, they struggled to throw the ball last week. Well, they did pretty well against the Steelers defense this week. Like,
yeah,
and once Saquon Barkley got going, like, even the Steelers couldn't stop him. So yeah, I think Philly's really good. But I guess, yeah, let's lead into this, Clark. I think, I'm down to 4 teams, right? I mean, Detroit, Philly, Buffalo, and Kansas City. You tell me why I'm wrong.
You only 4 teams.
Who else is going to win? Who else
You're
is
right.
going to who else can win the Super Bowl other than those 4? And Detroit has some questions, but Detroit doesn't have to play Buffalo in the NFC.
Yeah.
So I don't know who else to. I mean, there's nobody else that I believe in. Like, all right, Green Bay, Minnesota, maybe the Rams, maybe those teams are sneaky, but do I think they're going to win 3 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl? I just don't. And like, you look at the AFC, like, I mean, Pittsburgh. Come on, Pittsburgh's a limited team. I think they're doing the best with what they got, but they're limited. Baltimore's defense is a disaster. So there's no way they're going to hold up.
But it's matchups. It's everything's a one game scenario. All that matters is that one game where you're playing. So in the long run, if they were playing a series against the Chiefs, would I pick the Steelers? No, but in one game, maybe you can make it happen. Are struggling to score, and that's if it's low scoring. I mean,
right, and that's fine. Maybe they can win one game against the Chiefs. Then they're going to get beat by someone else.
I agree with you absolutely.
So yeah, I just don't. This is kind of I don't know that I've gotten to this in the NFL before. I've always thought there's less teams that can win it than people think there are, but for it to be like this, and we still have 3 games to go, I'm just like, wow, this is strange.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many there's so many bad teams. I mean, the Saints are bad, right? The Panthers, they've looked a little bit better in recent weeks, but they're bad. The Bengals defense is just awful. I mean, God, the Jets are horrible. The Jaguars are terrible. The Titans are really bad.
kind of lost your audio there.
Coach last week, and
Oh, there we go.
They sucked last week. There's just some bad. The Patriots are just bad.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then if they're not really bad, they're just a bunch of mediocre teams where it's just like, yeah, maybe 1 week you guys could look good, but like you're not going anywhere. So yeah, and look, maybe it's always kind of been this way, and maybe that's probably true, but I don't know. It just feels a little weird.
I think the quarterback imbalance has just, it's changed. It's just, this is what the league is now, and it's like the quarterbacks are one thing. And then if you have just an incomplete team, like it's the NFL, you're going to have a really hard time being consistent every week.
But if you think about it, Jalen Hurts, like, we have a lot of questions about him. The Eagles have accumulated so much talent around him, and they've got a really good running game, and they got all this talent on defense that, yeah, Jalen Hurts can throw for 115 yards, and it doesn't matter. They're still going to win the game against a lot of other teams, So, maybe stuff like that. But again, you got to have a really good front office that can draft like that, because they've been drafting really well in Philadelphia for a while now. And there's just not a lot of other organizations that do that, so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Do you think that the NFL needs to do something to address this? Because you're right. Like, if you don't, it's kind of like in the NBA, like the NBA, if you can't hit threes and you don't have like stars, like a star or two, like you're screwed, in the NFL, if you don't got a good quarterback, like, you're 7-10 or 8-9. I mean, that's basically what you are.
I'm not sure what they can do.
That's true.
I'm not sure what the answer is. You can't make it less advantageous for the quarterback. Like, that's a mistake.
Right.
Because that's what sells. You need that guy to drive the TV audience, which
but
by the way,
I wonder, the running game is, I think, going to become more valuable because of the way defenses have adjusted. They don't want you like getting these huge plays, so running has become more. I mean, even the Cheifs run the ball now, so I wonder if that's going to swing a little bit over the next few years, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that can really help your team, especially now. Running games have kind of come back a little bit because of the way that defenses have adjusted to what's going on. And so I think that definitely helps. But if you don't have the guy pulling the trigger,
well, yeah,
that's great. You have a running game, but if you don't have the quarterback, then the defenses can stop you. And that's what it comes down to. But I'm watching the Eagles today, and I'm just like, let me tell you something, Clark. Like, you're going to stop Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and AJ Brown in the same game. It's like you said, but like an NBA team, one of them is going to go off. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. In any game, one of them is just going to be awesome. And I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what you're supposed to do about it. And so, but I don't know. Well, how do you feel about Buffalo now? I mean, they lost that game to the Rams where the Rams offense just took them apart. And, but then they went today and they lit up Detroit. I mean, Detroit still scored a bunch of points, but Buffalo kind of got ahead of them, and there was nothing Detroit could really do about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really the question with the Bills, right? Like, because they lost a bunch of guys in the off season on defense, and it really affected them, and they're a lot smaller on defense. And going into the season, I still thought they were going to win the division, but I was like, they need to retool. They need to get more guys on defense, and maybe that's going to take a couple drafts or a couple free agent cycles for them to like rebuild that to a point where they can be like, all right, we're legitimate Super Bowl contenders on both sides of the ball. I don't know that they, Josh Allen's probably going to win the MVP now if Saquon Barkley doesn't win it. But it does kind of concern me the way some of these teams are racking up points against them. I mean, the Bills won today and they got out to a lead. So I guess that's encouraging, but
I think the way that you have to play Buffalo and Kansas City is pretty similar. You have to be able to run the ball and keep the ball away from them and keep their time of possession down. Last week's game, Buffalo only had the ball 23 minutes. They scored like 42 points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you that's what it comes down to. When you got a team that's got a quarterback like that, that's how you have to play. And Detroit really couldn't do that today. They were moving the ball really well and throwing it and all that, but they really need to slow the game down and run the ball and all of that stuff. And that's what you need to be able to beat them.
It's
And I
kind
just
of, if you think about it, I mean, really, like the way the Bills play and the way like the Lions play. Like now, I know the Lions have had comebacks and stuff this year, but if the Lions or the Bills get on top of you, you're screwed. Like
yeah.
it snowballs and it can just get out of control. Those are the only two teams I really feel. The Ravens sometimes, like when Lamar plays an NFC team or he plays or if he plays the Bills, he seems to like get rolling and then it just snowballs and it's just you're screwed. But I don't really feel that way about any of the other. Like I don't feel that way about Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, obviously, or the Chiefs, just because of their struggles on offense.
Yeah, I mean, Philly's probably the most balanced team right now. You know what I mean?
Probably, although
They
Jalen
have
Hurts definitely leaves. He's not, as a thrower, he's not at the level of Josh Allen or even Lamar Jackson or
but they don't
Jared
have a
Goff or
bad
anything.
unit on their team. That's my
That's
point.
true.
There's nothing on their team that's bad. Like they're good offensive line, good quarterback, good running back, good receivers, good defensive line, good secondary. There's nothing that the coach may leave a little bit to be desired. Maybe that's the answer, but the coordinators are great. So there's really not Philadelphia doesn't have like a weakness. They're you can beat them if you play really, really well.
Right.
But they don't really have like oh man. And it's like, and you look at I mean, there are some interesting teams in the NFC. Green Bay, Minnesota could be dangerous, but yeah, Philadelphia's really, really good. And I'm impressed. And Detroit's gonna have to, we still got some time. I'm not freaking out about anything, but Detroit's gonna have to figure out how to build more physicality on defense and slow people down a little bit. Because otherwise you just now granted, like I said, they don't have to play Buffalo in the NFC. There's
Right.
no quarterback like that. There's good quarterbacks, but there's nobody like that. That's like,
well, for instance, one of the things I was thinking, like, could Jordan Love like get really hot for a couple
yeah,
of weeks, and like that could like swing things. My problem with the Vikings is I question their defense. I don't think they have the personnel on defense that they're going to need. Like I think, and that was kind of their defense has kind of gotten worse over the course of the year, and I think that basically revealed like Flores didn't really have the personnel in Miami, but he's
right.
really good at bringing pressure, and when it works, it can really look good. But they just don't have the players in Minnesota, so that's what concerns me about that. Although, look, we'll see. I mean, they do have a ton of talent on offense, so.
Yeah, of course I say that there's 4 teams, and then some team's going to get hot and go to the Super Bowl, and I'm going to look like a moron.
It could happen, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I counted out Buffalo and Philly to start the season. Man, that was a mistake by me. I got all crazy. Oh, it's the same stupid crap that people do. Oh, well, Buffalo doesn't have any receivers, and blah, blah. It's like, dude, they got Josh Allen. Like, they'll be fine.
I question the idea that they don't have receivers. Like Amari Cooper's pretty good.
You look at it now, you're
Keon
like,
Coleman
the tight ends are really good.
Yeah, Shakir is pretty good. Yeah,
the running backs, James Cook's really good. Yeah. Like, yeah, so you're right. They were fine.
Question talent on their team. I question, do they have the guys on defense, because they lost a bunch of guys in the offseason. So and they're smaller back there. So that's
teams can run the ball like the Rams did last week, and that's how you have to beat Buffalo. You saw that even though the Rams had the ball for 38 minutes, it was still questionable at the end. So that shows you how dangerous Buffalo is. But I don't know. Do you have any other NFL thoughts?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess I don't really care about this, but who at this point, who do you think should win the MVP? Are you going Josh Allen, or I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with him winning it. I wouldn't have a problem with Saquon Barkley winning it either.
Yeah, I mean, look, the problem is just the value, the value map. Quarterbacks are just more valuable than running backs are.
Yeah.
So if Josh Allen keeps this up, he's probably going to win it. Saquon's got a chance.
Can like break Eric Dickerson's record, or just get over 2,000 yards, which it's going to be kind of tough. He's got over 300 yards. Well, just to get over 2,000, he's got like 312, 313 yards over the next 3 weeks. Like,
yeah. So if he could do that, maybe get over 2,000. I wouldn't count Lamar out of it yet. Because
Yeah,
this again, the NFL's week to week, and Lamar could finish the season on a freaking could get hot and just
it's
be
a narrative
unbelievable.
thing, and I think that like if you look at it right now, I think, and this is unquantifiable, but I think Josh Allen kind of has the edge on the narrative thing. But with Saquon, it could kind of flip a little bit, but we'll see. I mean, look, I'd be happy for him. I think it'd be great for him to win the MVP just because, I think most people recognize he's a really, really good quarterback, but also just, you get a few MVPs that kind of, you know,
The one thing I will say about the MVP, Clark, I'm sick and tired of looking at these odds and Mahomes being in the top 5. Could we stop that, please? Could we knock that off?
yeah,
Mahomes is not in the MVP conversation, not even near it. Like
yeah.
it's not even. This isn't even a discussion.
Well, and they're not, and that's the other thing too. You guys got to understand this. They're like, and look, I'm gonna give the Chiefs credit here. Okay, the Chiefs have their eye on the ball.
Right.
Okay, they just want to win the Super Bowl. Okay, which means they just want to win games. They want to try to get the 1 seed if possible, so they can only have 2 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl. They can play at home. Today, Mahomes, I read some of the quotes from him after the game. He's like, "Look, I probably could have gone back into the game, but I think we were in a good position. We were running the clock out. Carson Wentz was doing some stuff, and whatever." So he's like you said, he's not even playing that well, but it doesn't matter. He just wants to keep winning games and get in position to win the Super Bowl. He's totally got his eye on the ball. He doesn't care about any of this other crap, which he shouldn't if he wants to keep winning Super Bowls.
Yeah, I mean, they just want to. I mean, honestly, Clark, would it surprise you at all? They win next week, right? They clinch the 1 seed. Mahomes plays the first half of Week 17. He doesn't play Week 18. They get a bye week. He rests the ankle and he's ready to go. So
Yeah,
just like that. That's why I'm just like I don't understand why we're getting so freaked out about this now. Like this isn't going to be decided for another month. So let's just January 11th and 12th. Let's see where we're at then, because that's when this will be figured. Well, not even. I'm sorry. They'll get the bye, so it'll be January 18th and 19th. We don't need to talk about it until then.
yeah.
So anyway, but that would just be boring. Like we can't do that.
Well, yeah.
All right, I wanted to go through some of these college games real quick, just give us a little primer. So I just first of all, I thought it was funny, like when the point spreads came out, like Texas is favored over Clemson by 11.5 right now. The other 3 games were like 7-8 points, and everybody's like, "Oh man, they're big spreads," and I'm going, "Not in college football, they're not." Like 7-8 points in college football is not a big deal. In the NFL, it is, right? You're favored by more than a touchdown in the NFL. That's different because the league's much more even. But in college football, a 7-point spread is good. That means we have a chance at a decent game. Like 7-point underdogs win straight up in college football all the time. That's
Yeah.
not unusual at all, because we can't get a complete handle on the point spreads because they're college kids. So, all right. So let's see. Friday night, Indiana's playing in Notre Dame. I think this is I think it's a pretty good draw for Notre Dame. If you're Notre Dame fans, a pretty good draw. You get a home game against a team you have a good chance of beating, and they're 7.5-point favorites. So I think that this game's just going to be line of scrimmage. I mean, the Notre Dame's going to try to win this thing at the line of scrimmage. Notre Dame's not really dynamic throwing the ball down the field, which is fine. They don't really need to be, because their offensive line's really good. The running game's really good. The quarterback can run. So I think that's how this is going to go. Indiana, from what I've seen from Indiana, they will come out and try to throw the ball on you. But I don't think Indiana's receivers are going to really be able to separate. So they're more of a possession type team where they'll throw the ball on you, but it's more just to try to keep the ball. They're not going to necessarily make explosive plays down the field. But they did run the ball a little bit on Ohio State. Now, maybe that's nonsense because, I don't know what Ohio State's did the last few weeks of the season, but Indiana was able to run the ball on them a little bit. But I just expect Notre Dame up front with the home field advantage to figure out a way to win this. It'll probably be, I don't think it's going to be really high scoring, but I just think the fact that Notre Dame has a quarterback that can run and Indiana doesn't, I think is going to make a difference. And Notre Dame's going to watch Notre Dame's going to watch the tape and they're going to see, oh, we'll just blitz Indiana's quarterback. Once Ohio State did that, the game was over.
If
So
if Notre Dame wins, they would play
Georgia.
Oh,
So yeah, that's a good talking point because Georgia, Carson Beck, if you're asking me, I don't think he's going to play because they've said the first thing they said was he and his family are seeking other medical opinions. This sounds like the Brock Purdy injury, Clark, and if it is, he's gone.
yeah.
So this is gonna be interesting. We'll preview that game if it actually happens, but Georgia without their quarterback is a different animal. Now, Georgia, every other position, Georgia's way better than any of these teams they might play. So
Right.
It may not matter, but it gives them a chance. So
to be honest, like in college, you got to define success because it can't be winning the championship for everybody. So Notre Dame, if you got into the playoff, if you beat Indiana, that's a pretty good year.
Yeah, it's a pretty good year, and go down to the games in New Orleans. Go down to New Orleans and give Georgia hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give them a hard time. See if you can beat them. You know, because if it's a low-scoring game, you saw that game Georgia against Texas, 16-16, and it went to overtime. Like, you play in a game like that, you might be able to win. So, anyway, all right. So next, SMU is going to Penn State. Penn State favored by 8.5. This game I see is very simple. Penn State's better on both lines of scrimmage. They got, Penn State has NFL linemen. They've had NFL linemen forever. So that's how they roll. And SMU is a quarterback who can move around and do stuff. So it just comes down to this. If SMU's quarterback, Kevin Jennings, if he can move around and make plays in the face of a pass rush, because those defensive linemen are going to be after him the whole game. If they can figure out a way to make plays like that, they'll have a chance. But if this game is just straight up and Penn State can just run the ball, I don't see SMU beating them.
Right.
It's not impossible, but it's just I just think it's going to be very difficult. I think Penn State's going to dominate both lines of scrimmage pretty easily. And if Drew Aller can do anything for Penn State throwing the ball, and they scored a bunch of points on Oregon, so they can make any plays throwing the ball, then I don't know how SMU hangs in there. But you know what? They were getting throttled by Clemson, and they figured out how to come back. So I'm not counting SMU out. I'm just saying I just think Penn State just has a gigantic advantage. Next one, Texas or Clemson going to Texas. Texas favored by 11.5. There's a world. I mean, the way Texas is playing is kind of up and down, especially on offense. So I could see Clemson keep making this a game because Clemson up front is pretty good. And they've got a quarterback who's a junior. He's been around a while, but he also can make mistakes from time to time. So I Texas should win this game. And if they play well, they'll dominate. But I don't know. Is Texas just not a good matchup against Georgia, and that's why they look like that? Or are they really struggling? Because they played Texas A&M, they just basically ran the ball and they didn't have any problem. And I don't know if they're going to do that against Clemson or not, but yeah, I like. I mean, do I like Texas to win more than Penn State? I don't know. It's close. It's close. But I just think if Texas plays well, they'll beat them easily. But I don't know if they're going to. And are we going to see, is this going to be like, could this be it for Quinn Ewers? Like if he sucks in the first half, are they just going to go to Arch Manning and that's the end of it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting dynamic of that. This is the best game. And I don't understand why the point spread is what it is, but this is the best game. Tennessee at Ohio State. Ohio State coming off the Michigan disaster where they look like absolute dog shit. I just, and this has been my take, before the playoffs started, Clark. These people who want to sell their Georgia and Tennessee and Ohio State and Penn State stock, I'll buy all of it. Like I'm kind of upset that Tennessee's playing Ohio State because I really wanted both these teams to kind of, win their first game and get to the next round. But yeah, Ohio State's not, I just don't see Ohio State playing like they did against Michigan. But I also think Tennessee's a quality team. They're good. Their defense is really good. They're really good up front. they're going to cause, they can cause some problems. And if Ohio State's offensive line doesn't have their act together, this is going to be a serious problem. But Tennessee's offense is it's not great. They don't score. They're not going to score a ton of points. They're capable of scoring, but I just don't see them coming out and lighting it up. So I don't, Ohio State favored by 7. I don't agree with that. This is the one game where I'm just like, the point spread is just wrong. Like, this should be 3 or 4. I don't understand why it's 7. And, maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm going to end up looking stupid and Ohio State's just going to dominate them. But I like Tennessee plus the 7 here. And I think Tennessee makes this a hell of a game. And I can't really pick a winner. I can't tell you who's going to win. I mean, Ohio State has more talent. So, if they play up anywhere near their potential, they should win. But I don't know what I'm getting from Ohio State at this point. I've seen them play this season. They're all over the place. They look really good against Oregon, but kind of got chewed up on defense.
Texas has looked the same way.
Yeah, they looked. Ohio State looked like they were clueless on offense against Michigan. I don't know what they were doing. Their defense is still good. Like, regardless of what happened in that Michigan game, they allowed 13 points. They should have won. It's just the offense couldn't do anything. So yeah, but I still think, like, I know everybody wants to come up with, every team has a chance. I mean, I'm sorry. I still think it's going to be like, Georgia and, I don't know.
Oregon and maybe
Georgia
Ohio
against
State.
either Texas or Oregon. I mean, I think Oregon's really, really good. And I think they're going to be, now it's not really fair. Oregon has to play Tennessee or Ohio State first.
Right.
But that's just a seeding thing. Yeah, and teams like, Clark, we could be looking at, look at Georgia with no quarterback, right? Penn State's probably going to beat SMU. Notre Dame beats Indiana. Notre Dame's playing Georgia, and Penn State's playing Boise State. Like, this is like if you're a Penn State fan, you should be through the roof here, man. You have a chance to be in the semifinals. And who knows who you're playing? You're either playing Georgia with their backup quarterback or Notre Dame or Indiana. Like,
yeah,
that's a pretty good place to be. But yeah, I still like Oregon or Texas or Georgia to win the thing.
right.
The only problem for those teams is when they have to play each other. But this has been the best college football season of my life, Clark. I think it's fantastic. All these ideas are coming out this week. Oh, they're gonna change this or they're gonna change that, or how about the playoff format? I honestly think, Clark, I don't think they're going to be able to come to any agreement, with this next, the next meeting. So I think next year's playoff is going to be exactly the same. Oh, one more point I wanted to make before we go. If they'd have done this 12-team playoff last year, Clark, it would have worked perfectly. The top 4 teams were all conference champions, right? You had Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. It would have been so everybody's like bitching about the format. Well, I went and looked back at the last 10 years of the 14 playoff. Like, it would have worked. The reason it just kind of didn't work is because you took the best 2 teams out of the Big 12. And you kind of just, you basically, you demoted that conference, basically. You turned that into, an average league, a barely above a Group 5 league. So that's what kind of ruined it. And I think they'll fix the format eventually, but it doesn't matter. They're going to expand and put more teams in anyway.
Yeah, I just feel like there hasn't been enough of it. I mean, I get it, but there hasn't been enough of like, oh my God, we got a playoff. We actually have a playoff. Like, you look at some of these games and it's like, can you imagine if, like, remember when Florida State won with Charlie Ward?
Yeah.
Remember, what if they had a 12-team playoff that year, right? You would have had Florida State, you would have had Notre Dame, you would have had
Nebraska,
probably Miami. Like, oh my God, you would have had these teams playing each other. And, like, the fact that you get, like, Texas playing Clemson. When the hell's the last time Clemson played Texas?
When's the last time Penn State played SMU?
Yeah, Indiana's playing Notre Dame. Do they play each other that much?
No, they haven't played since 1991.
I mean, and then you could get so Tennessee's playing Ohio State. That's crazy in itself. And then the winner of that could go play Oregon. Like, what if it was Tennessee versus Oregon? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, it's like, guys, like, I know you want to argue about these different little things, but it's just like the complaining is outweighing the fact we actually have a playoff. Like, finally, we've been pining for this for 30 fucking years, longer than that, 40 or 50 years. And finally we have it. And it's like everybody's just, oh, well, you got to do this. You got to do this. I don't really like this. It's like, come on, guys. Really?
Yeah, there's problems with it. There's problems with everything. I get that. But what I don't like is people now go like it just the planet, the different places that people are coming from with these opinions. Like I'm watching Josh Pate's show and he's got some guy on and he's like, well, we should just make it the best 12 teams. And I'm like, dude, like no, come on, man. Like you watch, we have a model for this. Look at all the other college sports. Look at college basketball, right? Well, we should just put the best 12 teams in regardless of anything. It's like, yeah, you can't do that, man. You got to invite other people to the party. Okay. You got to keep other guys interested. You can't just bail just because, oh, well, we don't like that conference isn't that good. Well, it's like, when did college football become elitist? Like, I don't understand that. It's college football. It should have some form of inclusivity in it.
Right.
It's perfectly yes, we should let conference championships. Do we have to fix the seeding so it works? Yes, of course we do. Okay, yes, Boise State and Arizona State should not be getting a first round bye. I get it. Okay, it's not perfect. It didn't work out right, but just this nonsense about. I mean, do you understand? And the other thing is, like, people think, oh well, you know, they're just someone should be outraged here. It's like, do you understand how hard it was to get them to do this? Like, do you know what we've gone through to get to this point? Like the fact that we have this is a fucking miracle. Okay, I know everybody likes to act like, oh, college football is totally changing really fast now. Well, some things are.
Yeah.
Like, some things are, but some things are not. And these conferences agreeing to do something is just, come on, it's 1 in a million. If it happens again, I'll be shocked. But yeah, I definitely think it'll get expanded in 2026, and I'm fine with it. Like this is I just think this is all gravy. It's all good, you know. And I just, you know. But again, I think people take it a little bit too seriously. Even though it looks and feels a lot more like a professional sport, it really isn't.
Right.
Anywho, all right, Clark. Let's go watch some football. So next weekend
episode next week.
What?
Festivus
episode. Yep.
Yeah, we got to do the Festivus episode.
Festivus. We'll break down some college football playoff games, and hopefully next NFL weekend will be a little better. But
yeah, this was kind of.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the rest of the season is going to be kind of a bad until we get to the playoffs. You know.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in.